That means knees bent, feet on the floor. And you can have a little pillow under your head if you like. And this is a bit of a cooling position, perhaps. Okay, so we're in constructive rest to start. And let me just set the class up by explaining what the heck a Vayu is. There's all these different words when you go to yoga class, and sometimes it's a little overwhelming, all this language, but it literally is a different language, isn't it? So Vayu refers to the direction of prana in your body. So just to make it confusing, we always talk about prana as the vital life force or the energy. We talk about breathing and how that helps our prana. But there's actually 5 directions of prana in the body, and this is what Vayus are. And one of the directions is called prana. So it's kind of like when you have John and his son John, that's how confusing it all gets. So we're going to talk about these 5 directions of prana. Vayu, the word is roughly to mean air or wind. And you have these winds, I guess you could say, moving through the body that help to direct your energy and help to animate your life. So we're going to start in this constructive rest position. And we're going to start with a movement that kind of speaks a little bit to the downward flow of energy. So this is the grounding type of energy, the type of energy that helps us to stay centered. It's called apana. So in your position right now of constructive rest, lying on your back, knees bent, feet on the floor, start to breathe as best as you can in and out through the nose. And just for a second, connect with the feeling of that wind moving in your nose and out your nose. And see if you can kind of feel the wave of wind moving into your body, creating a shape change, and then the wave of wind receding back out from the body. And so that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a direction of energy. Now, when you breathe, it's really, really kind of obvious that there's wind moving through your body. But there's also subtle currents that aren't on the top of the surface. They're more under the surface of the water. And that's where we want to kind of work today. So we're talking first about apana vayu. So let's do some apanasana. Gently lift your feet from the floor and bring your knees a little closer into your body and place your hands on the knee knobs. And then as you inhale, allow room for your body to do that expansion as the wind of breath blows through the body. And then as you exhale, draw the legs a little closer into your body and kind of push the wave of wind back out. And then inhale and then exhale. So apana works with everything that needs to be eliminated from your body. So this sometimes is referred to as wind relieving pose and can cause a little bit of, well, you know, and that's, my mother-in-law always said, better out than in. That's an important thing to be able to eliminate. It also helps us to eliminate other things that need to come out of the body. So it assists in digestion. It works with the menstrual cycle. It also can be elimination of other things that need to be digested. So that could be different impressions, emotions, or thoughts. If you find that you're having a little bit of trouble letting go, if you're caught on a thought, you can't seem to move through a stuck behavior, this posture, believe it or not, working with the apana vayu can be very helpful. If your apana vayu is weak or blocked, you can feel ungrounded or unsupported. By directing your prana or that vital energy downward to the base of the spine, this posture kind of helps you with that. We will really kind of be able to feel that connection with the earth. Now we're going to move into some other movements now that will kind of help us reconnect even more deeply with this elimination, this courage to kind of let go of what we need to let go of. Before we move into a standing pose though, maybe you'd like to hold the knees a bit closer into the chest, wiggle your toes while they're up there in the air, roll around your ankles, just generally kind of moves the lower body a little bit. How about bending and straightening the knees? You can do this one at a time if that's better. You can kind of bicycle a little bit, like whatever, get creative. It's your practice, good. And then maybe you'd like to, kind of have your hands on your knees and do some circles with your knees. Mandalasana, we often call this. So it could be circles in one direction or separate circles with each leg. Just anything that you feel will kind of get your lower body back fresh in your mind and ready to work for you. Because we're going to ask the lower body to do actual physical work and also some mental work for you. When you're all ready and you've kind of warmed up the lower part of the body, please roll over to your side and take your time as you transfer up to a standing position. So up to mountain pose. And as you take mountain pose, please bring your awareness back to your breath. And we're going to use different breathing techniques with each one of our poses, each one of the Vayus, to see if we can help to connect to the power within us. So we're still going to breathe in and out through the nose in your mountain pose. So as you inhale, breathe in through the nose, and with mental attention, draw your breath into the pelvic floor, right at the base of the spine. So see if you can just connect mentally with that part of your body. And as you exhale, move the breath further down in the body, down through the legs and out through the feet, literally plugging you into the planet. So inhale through the nose, bring the breath into the pelvic floor. Exhale, continue moving the breath down your body and plug your feet into the planet. I'm going to give you maybe time to do 3 or 4 breaths without me chattering in your ear, so you can really maybe feel that. So what I would love for you is if you had a better sense of the lower half of your body now, and you had a sense that you were safe to let go of the weight of your body into the ground. You really feel the pull of gravity, and this assists with apana. Now we're going to move a little bit to move the apana again. So let's inhale, lift our arms up, and then exhale, soften your knees as you forward fold. Just come into an easy uttanasana. And then inhale, make your way back up to an extended mountain pose, and exhale, forward fold. Do this at the pace of your own breath. If you find bobbing up and down is troublesome, maybe a lot of people get dizziness these days, especially in this heat, just do half lift or just come halfway down. Good. And then take that maybe 2 more breaths. Try to be real patient with your body, continuing to keep awareness in the lower half of your body as you do this. So that's apana. Let's come back to mountain pose. And we're going to play around in some other postures to help us find a little bit more of that grounding. Let's face the side of your mat and then take your legs fairly far apart. Rotate the right thigh bone externally and bend your right knee to find your warrior 2 legs. So don't take a really stretched out warrior 2. Be conservative in your warrior 2. Okay, good. So don't worry about the arms for today in warrior 2. I wanted to focus on the legs. Can we bring the apana breathing back into this? And if you want to have a little bit more full body availability or awareness, what you could do is you could inhale, lift your arms up, and then exhale, bring your hands down in front of your face, in front of your chest, in front of your belly to the pelvic floor, and then point down to your feet. And then inhale, come all the way up with the hands, and then exhale, hands pointing down at the floor as you take that energy like an elevator sinking and plugging into the planet. Be very aware of your feet. And try a couple more breaths like this. So apana, vayu. Good. Last breath. And then let's release the legs. Bring your feet into a parallel position. You're facing the long edge of your mat. And we'll just take a break here. Now, you came in, maybe you were rushing to get to class this afternoon. Maybe you've got a very busy day. Do you notice this energy starting to help you feel more centered or grounded? I'm just wondering. Can you rotate your left leg bone now? Point your left toes away, bend your knee, coming into warrior 2 legs. Not a really sexy warrior 2, a rather conservative one. Good. And then when you're ready, inhale. You can move the arms if you want. And then exhale, same thing. You're coming down from the face, across the chest, across the belly, point down from the pelvic floor to the actual floor. Good. So you're really grounding your whole focus into the feet at the end of the exhale, planting your feet into the planet. Nothing can blossom if it's not well rooted. The garden's teaching us that right now. Okay, last breath. And then please turn your feet parallel and take a break. And ask yourself, how do I feel about this? Because this is how the yogis came up with this stuff. They didn't focus on, marketing people. They just figured this out in those caves and didn't wash a lot. Can I please invite you to come back to your mountain pose? And I'd like to revisit mountain pose, but focus on the next Vayu, which is called Samana Vayu. The second prana is, it rules the equalizing and balancing action of all that we ingest. So when food and drink enter our bodies, we need to digest and assimilate and process before we can eliminate. So we were working on elimination. Now we're working on better digestion. On a mental level, the role of samana is to digest information and experiences. And many of us have a lot of information overload right now. A lot of too many new experiences right now. So this Vayu helps us to process all of that. So we're going to breathe in a slightly different way in order to experience Samana Vayu. So when you inhale now, allow the breath to move into your side waist and your side ribs. Let the front belly expand a little bit and really feel that rib or thoracic expansion as you inhale. As you exhale, let the breath disperse evenly throughout the body. So like fog or steam, it just kind of moves and dissipates out through all the periphery of the body. So really feeling that expansion of the rib cage, of the thoracic area on the inhale. And I see some people having their hands on the ribs. That's a great idea. It really helps direct some awareness to the middle part of your body. And then we'll change up the breathing just a little bit. Inhale, fill the cylinder of your torso as you did before, and then move the breath inward as you exhale and light a little fire in the center of your belly. And let that fire increase in intensity over the next 3 exhales. So we're taking our Samana Vayu and really working on building that fire. You call it digestive fire sometimes in yoga, really building our ability to be able to sort through and digest what we need to digest. Now let's bring a little bit of movement into this, but our focus is still that center point in your body. So when you're ready, let's take the arms, perhaps up into cactus arms. You can also have your hands resting on your shoulders. I would maybe take your feet a little wider apart than mountain pose and feel free to bend your knees a little bit. This is a dynamic twist. You can go as fast as you like. Some people like fast, fast. Some people like slower, slower. So you inhale here and then exhale, twist your whole upper body to one side and inhale center and exhale, go to the other side. So start moving with your breath. And then if you want to start kind of finding your own rhythm, that's fine. Your hips, your knees, and your feet stay facing forward. It's just the upper body that's twisting like your Barbie, and you can only twist at that one junction in your torso. Yeah, and you're really digesting, churning, firing up the belly with this. So keep your knees bent, hips facing forward, and you can go side to side as quickly as you feel comfortable doing it. So we're directing the breath now to the center of the torso, and we envision it being churned or distributed or squeezed around the entire cylinder of your body. And then slowly letting that dissipate, coming to a center point, relaxing your arms. And I don't know how your experience is playing out, but for some people, a real sense of self-consciousness can develop when we talk a lot about the belly. I mean, there's so many cultural messages that we're supposed to be skinny and we shouldn't let our belly hang out and we have so much anxiety around what we're eating. So being able to connect in this way with the middle part of the body may help you move through some of that cultural messaging or cultural blockages. Let's try a different posture. So I'm going to suggest that we might come into a seat now. So you can have a folded blanket underneath your tushy. In fact, I often work with 2 or 3 folds of blanket. Michelle, the bolster might be too much for you. It might be too wobbly. So, but if that's all you've got, that's all you've got. I want you to be able to do forward fold safely and without straining your back. And you know that you're forward folding safely if you're able to keep a natural curve in your low back, not round out like cat back when you forward fold. So we're going to do a dynamic version of forward fold, again, with this intention of churning and distributing the fire from the belly. So thanks, Joe, for letting me know. Not sure why there's so many stops. Yeah, technology. When you're ready, we might take the arms up alongside the ears. And as you exhale, forward fold, keeping your head in between the arms and just angling forward as far as you can comfortably. And then inhale, come back up, and exhale, forward fold. So if you're finding that this is troublesome for your low back, you might try sitting up on more blankets. You can always come back to the standing version we did of this at the beginning of class. That was the Uttanasana. Keep your knees gently bent, especially my flexible friends. And if it's getting tiresome holding your arms up, this can be done with hands on the shoulders like we did the twist. So you don't have to hold the arms all the way up. Take a few more breaths. And then we'll come up. Relax your arms from wherever they are, and take staff pose for a moment. So this is just, you can bring your hands behind you to help support your spine. Your spine is straight up and down as best as you can from the floor. Legs still stretched out in front, and just calm everything down by breathing a little bit more slowly. And remember, we did that breathing technique a minute ago where you were imagining on the exhales, everything just kind of dissipating like a gentle fog distributing throughout your body. So just let that fire kind of melt into all of your tissues. And it's almost like it's dissolving any gunky bits that need to be melted and allowed to be fluid again. Let me take one more breath with that focus. And then we're still working with our Samana Vayu. Can I invite you to come back up to standing, and we'll come through a couple sun salutations. Now this version of sun salutation might include a plank and a down dog. If you're not comfortable with those postures, maybe your shoulders are bothering you today or you just feel really tired, please take a different version of sun salutation that you feel better about. And if you can't remember how to do sun salutation and you don't like what we're doing, how about cat-cow? You can get the same sort of idea of this from just doing a cat-cow sort of movement for the duration. So if you want to do the sun salutation, we're going to really work with the Samana Vayu here. So when you're ready, inhale, lift the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Feel how that massages the belly. It was extended and now it's compressed. Inhale, come halfway up and lengthen your spine. Stretch your belly. Exhale, forward fold. Take your hands to the ground and please step back into plank pose. Take a version of plank you can hold for a second. Could be knees down, and that's fine. Take a moment to shift your body weight forward so your shoulders are over your wrists. Now feel the belly, and as you inhale, do that breathing that we did earlier. Fill the whole rib cage, fill the whole cylinder of your core with breath. And as you exhale, really pull that breath in and stoke the fire in the middle of your belly. And can you do 2 more breaths like that? Stoking the fire in the belly as you hold plank pose. And then on your next inhale, please press back into downward facing dog. Take an extended child's pose or prayer pose if that's a better place for you, especially if you've been doing cat-cow. And now we'll shift the breathing awareness just a little bit. We're still inhaling, feeling this cylinder, the whole cylinder of your torso expand. And as you exhale, could you let the fire like kind of the warmth melt out to the feet, to the hands, and to every cell in between. And take 2 more breaths like that. And then when you're ready, please look forward to your hands, step your feet up to your hands, come back to forward fold. Take a big exhale when you get there, squeeze the belly. And then inhale with that focus on the belly. Think about stretching and lengthening the belly as you lift up to the sky. And exhale, hands to the heart. So we didn't move terribly quickly on that sun salutation, but perhaps you're sweating a little bit. You're using your mental focus to help really build that fire. We're just going to do one more thing, one more round of that, and then we'll move on to a different Vayu. So let's try it again. Inhale, lift, touch the sky, stretch the belly. Exhale, forward fold and squeeze the belly. Inhale, come halfway up. It's still kind of a lengthening for the belly, isn't it? Your belly's still open. Exhale, come forward and bring your feet back into plank. Could be knees down or the more traditional version of plank, whatever you like. Now, what we want to focus on though here is our mental guidance to the breath. So shift your shoulders forward over your wrists, get strong in your belly. Now inhale, see if you can expand the front, the sides, and the back of the cylinder of your torso. And as you exhale, hug all those points back into the center and stoke the little sunshine you've got building in the center of your belly. And see if you can take 2 more breaths like that. On your next inhale, push back into down dog or an alternative. And shift the focus of your breath ever so slightly. You're still expanding out in all directions in the cylinder of your torso on the inhale. But on the exhale, you're letting the warmth melt out down your arms, through your shoulders, to your fingertips. And you're letting on the exhale, the warmth of the belly melt through the hips, down the legs, and out the soles of the feet. So you can just feel that whole system starting to warm away resistance and tension. When you're ready, we'll look to the hands, walk the feet up to the hands, take an exhale in the forward fold, compress the belly, and then as you inhale, lift all the way up. And exhale, hands back down at your side. Whew. And how about a mini Shavasana? So would you like to lie down for a second? Just a mini Shavasana. But that's a lot of work that we've been doing there. And while you're getting settled in this mini Shavasana, let's talk about the third Vayu, which is prana. And like I said, this is just to make it kind of confusing, at least it is for me. Prana Vayu is a type of prana, but it's also maybe the most fundamental of the 5 different types. Maybe that's why it gets star billing. This Vaya rules inward motion, including all that we take into our bodies. It relates to the actions of inhaling and eating and drinking and swallowing. Mentally, prana Vayu applies to the 5 senses and what we feed them. It can be weakened by exposure to loud noises or too much noise, watching violent television or negative news, or listening to sad songs. Any kind of sensory overload can really diminish this Vayu. When you're healthy in your prana Vayu, you can walk away from the seduction of these kind of addictive stimulants, and you are comfortable learning to create and cultivate silence and turn your attention inward. When the Vayu is very weak, you just can't focus on meditation, and we've all been there. So while you're in this mini Shavasana, let's try a little breathing technique. Allow your breath to move lightly, very lightly, in through the nose, and move softly to the center of your mind. And then as you exhale, see the breath turn into a white light, washing your mind free of clutter and noise. So let's do a little mental cleansing before we come into more movement. And you're welcome to stay in your mini Shavasana as long as you need it. But if you're ready to move, we still have, we're only halfway through class. So we can get up and come back to mountain pose, back to Tadasana, and do a little bit more work for prana Vayu. It's one of the things I love about yoga is you can get into these really esoteric concepts and you can be very meditative, but I still can move sometimes. And that tends to work well for me. So let's come to mountain pose again, Tadasana, and let's shift the way we're thinking about the pose. So, we've done 2 other Tadasanas already today, one with the Apana Vayu and one with the Samana Vayu, totally forgot where I was. Now we're going to move into being more focused on the prana Vayu. So as you inhale, allow the breath to flow in through your nose and imagine a jeweled chalice pouring the freshest breath into your lungs. Focus on your lungs filling with air as if you could taste the freshness and beautiful quality of it. I don't know if you've ever visited Newfoundland, but when I hear this is what I feel Newfie air is like. It's just so fresh and so you chew on it almost. So just let the lungs fill with that air on the inhale. Now on the exhale, don't imagine pushing the breath away from you. Alternatively, allow the prana to linger as the exhale moves through the lining of the lungs. Try to keep your attention internally, as if you were enjoying the aftertaste of the most delicious inhale possible. So keeping the awareness of the breath internal rather than exhaling out into the world. Let's make a little bit of movement here while you keep that breathing pattern, that image, keep fresh in your mind. As you inhale, lift the arms up, do extended mountain pose, and exhale, bring the hands down through the heart. And then inhale, lift the arms up. You're sipping in from a jeweled chalice, that precious prana. And as you exhale, bring the prana even deeper. Savor it. Let it really dissipate from the lining of the lungs. And let's take 2 more breaths like that. And then after you finish this breath, keep the hands at the heart and adjust yourself so you can step your right leg back into warrior 1. And again, we don't want to take a really demanding leg position here because this is really a lot to focus on the breathing pattern. So Cindy, you might want to step your right leg out to the right side of your mat a little bit so you can bring your right hip forward a bit more and square to the front of the mat. You've got it. That's it. Perfect. And then with the hands at the heart, let's do that same arm movement. As you inhale, lift up, drink from the jeweled chalice. Just taste the sweetness of that prana and then bring it down into the center of the chest. And really take your time with that so you can feel the lovely dispersion of that prana deep internally. You really can, some of my friends here know how much I like wine, and it reminds me a little bit of really taking that first sip of wine and you really chew on it. Let it flow over all sides of your tongue. Let's take 1 more breath on this side in our warrior 1. And then releasing back into mountain pose. So you can bring your right leg forward. Let's just take a brief break between sides as you let the effects of that mental focus help you decide. So is this working? Do you get anything out of this? Do you think those yogis in those caves were onto something? Okay. And then let's drop back with the left leg into warrior 1 on the other side. So same thing. We're keeping the movements pretty routine today because we're actually taking our practice into an advanced level by really being focused. So Michelle, if you can just turn your hips so you're to the front of the mat in warrior 1. Yeah. And your right knee will be bent this time. Yeah. So your hips are square to the short edge of your mat. And then when you're ready, inhale, lift the arms up, drinking from that chalice, and then exhale, bringing the hands down into the chest, really absorbing and bringing that prana into the body. Your awareness coming internal into the body. Yeah, beautiful. Maybe one more breath here. And then stepping your legs together into mountain pose. And we'll just take a break before we move to our next bit of movement. So the movements that we're doing are pretty familiar. You've all been doing yoga for quite a while and you know what these poses look like. But when you add these new layers of focus and you start working at the level of prana, it can be very profound. So if you need to take a break, that's fine. And sometimes you'll notice that you have really unusual reactions to a posture. I've done Warrior One my whole career, and all of a sudden I have this new idea or this new reaction. And sometimes they're not all that comfortable, the reactions. But can you say, isn't that interesting? And there's the power of prana right there, right? Okay, chair pose. Can't have a class without chair pose, I don't think. So let's do chair pose dynamically, and let's do it with that same breath focus. So as you come into chair pose, lift up the arms, bend your hips, push your bum back. And as you exhale, stand up into mountain pose, hands once again come down to the heart. And then inhale, arms extend, bum pushes back into chair pose, and then exhale, hands to the heart. And remember, it's not about the deepest chair pose we've ever done. It's about drinking from the chalice of that sweet prana on the inhale, and then internalizing that power on the exhale. Let's maybe take 2 more breaths in Utkatasana with this focus. And then let's come back to mountain pose, taking a moment to process what's been going on. Like I said, this is an advanced class, so you have to pace yourself. Now here's a couple suggestions for our last posture focusing on prana. Kind of was the star of the show. One thing you could do would be a dancer's pose. This is a pose that can be really liberating and fun, but it can also be a pose that just is outside your repertoire for today. So let me show you an alternative before we go into dancer pose. Maybe we'll all do the alternative just so we can warm up for dancer pose. So I'm taking my hands to my sacrum. The heels of the palms are quite low down on the spine. I'm widening the collarbones, and I'm gathering awareness in the middle part of my body, just like I did when I was working on Samana Vayus. Knees are nice and soft, spine is long, and as you inhale, elongate the spine. Notice I didn't say back bend, I said elongate. And then on the exhales, relax. We can have the same focus mentally with our breath. On the inhales, leaning back to sip of that jeweled chalice, and exhale, letting everything soften and internalize. You can work with that. If you would prefer, you could come into dancer pose, and this is what it might look like. You take a hold of one of your feet, ankles, something like that. You can also use a strap to make the connection. Bring your knees in line with each other and realign the spine. When you're working with prana, it's so important to have your body in a nice, smooth alignment, not too much strain, because that holds back the flow of prana. If we're really bent over to one side or we hold at a funny angle, it might not work quite the same way. So if this is accessible to you today, you could come into the pose. It might look something like this, and you could inhale, drink from the chalice, and then exhale, bring the prana back into the chest. Drink from the chalice and bring the prana back into the chest. So we have a couple different options there. In fact, there's an infinite number of options, really. What I'm doing is not what you need to do if that's not what works for you. Let's try 2 more breaths on this side. Remember, you could be doing just a standing extension if grabbing your leg is uncomfortable. And then let's come back to mountain pose and just process this before we jump into the other side. How are we doing? Okay. And as I said, the dancer pose is something that's kind of fancy, and you don't really have to worry about it right now, because I don't want to focus on a whole bunch of fancy poses. I want to focus on our mental focus, where our brains are going. So if you want to try dancer pose on the other side, otherwise you can do the spinal extension from standing that we demonstrated first. Or you can just rest in, come down into Shavasana, because that's where we might go next. Oh no, sorry, come to Tadasana, mountain pose, because that's where we're going to be next. So let's just take 2 more breaths, moving into and out of your extension, drinking from the jeweled chalice on the inhales and internalizing the prana on the exhales. Beautiful. Okay, then let's come back to mountain pose. Very vigorous class today, really. We're moving into our 4th kind of prana, Udana. It's the upward movement of energy in our body. It's the uplifting of our perspective. It is said to govern physical growth, and mentally, a healthy Udana Vayu is associated with the willingness to reach beyond general limitations. For example, accepting challenges in your career or for spiritual growth. Challenges often are just that, a challenge designed to make you reach deeper, reach higher, try harder. And so that's Udana Vayu. When it's weaker, one may have a tendency to become stagnant in their career or stuck in certain behaviors or in their yoga class. They only want one yoga teacher or yoga done one way, and sometimes that means the Udana Vayu is not really activated. One example might be choosing to stay at a job without mental stimulation and that leads nowhere, or the inability to speak up for oneself and one's needs, or having lack of enthusiasm. So let's try Tadasana a 4th time with this Udana Vayu predominant in our mind. So in mountain pose, inhale. This time, imagine the breath moving up from the earth into the soles of the feet and climbing the legs, up through the spine and up the chest. On the exhale, invite the energy to continue moving up through to the crown of your head. So we're inhaling up from the ground and up, 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 even on the exhales, out the crown of the head. Take 2 more breaths in mountain pose with this visualization of the energy lifting the whole length of your body. And mentally note to yourself how your experience of mountain pose changes when you think about the different vayus. Now let's move to camel pose. If you're not comfortable being on your knees, you can do a version of camel pose on a chair. So I have my trusty chair here, and I'll just briefly demonstrate that. You can use the chair to just take all the pressure off your knees, but you can still find the camel shape with your back and still follow along with what we're doing in terms of the breathing techniques. And then if you don't mind being on your knees, I always have a blanket under my knees because I'm working here on a hardwood floor. You can just take your hands back to the sacrum where they were in that standing version of this. It's kind of the same pose, but a little bit more challenging on the legs and hips now. And on the inhale, we extend the spine. And on the exhale, you can release that a little bit. You can sit right back on your heels on the exhales if you're comfortable. See if you can stay in camel pose. So let's go ahead, take the posture either on the chair or on your knees if that's okay. And as you inhale, do the same as before. Imagine the breath moving up, this time from your feet or knees all the way up to the chest. And on the exhale, let the breath release through the throat region, releasing any tension on the exhale. So the throat or the jaw, even your teeth can relax on the exhales. So on the inhale, you're drawing up from the earth, right up into the heart area. And on the exhales, imagine the tension dissipating from the throat, jaw, neck. And take that maybe a couple more breaths, camel pose. And then let this be your last exhale. And if you're comfortable coming forward on your belly, we're going to work in cobra pose next. So move towards a prone position. If you would prefer not to be on your belly, stay on your chair and you can work with the previous posture. It'll be exactly the same, but you'll get double the bang for your buck. So if you're coming onto your belly, let's place the hands on the floor beside your rib cage, elbows poking up towards the ceiling behind you. And for this version of Cobra, we won't come up so far from the floor because we really want to soften through that jaw and throat and neck. And if you really push up hard, I find people get a lot of tension. The prana will jam in the neck. So let's be really gentle. Make a lot more work in the arms, not so much in the shoulders or the chest. So when you're ready, inhale, bring energy up right from the feet, up the legs, up the torso, and exhale, soften the throat, relax. And you might hold Cobra pose rather than going all the way down to the ground. If you need to rest and go down to the ground, that's fine. But you could always try for maybe, 3 breaths? Just working the breath, working the prana in Cobra pose. So remember, on the inhales, feel the feet. It'll be the tops of the feet that are grounded into the floor. All the way up the legs, pelvis, belly, chest. Exhale, soften the neck, the throat, the jaw, the teeth. Let's take one more breath in Cobra. And you're almost there. Let's just take a break. You can just lie on your belly if you like. Bring your hands under your forehead, if that works to create a pillow for you. And again, checking in, attuning to your personal experience. If overall you have a sense of aliveness and awareness of your experience, you're very present with what's going on, then I think our class is going in a good direction. Even if it's not 100% comfortable all the time, I like waking up. I like to be conscious through my life. So, and I think as yogis, you probably do too. Making your way back up to one last Tadasana, one last mountain pose. So take your time as you transition, and we're going to go into talking about the 5th kind of prana. This is Vyana. Vyana Vayu moves from the center outward. It's the opposite of what you did in Samana Vayu. And based in the area of the heart, Vyana Vayu represents the whole body, the energy that radiates past the boundary of our skin and supports our optimal health. It relates to circulation. So obviously, it's circulation through our legs and through our arms, getting nutrients to where they're needed. It relates to lymph as well as blood. On a mental level, Vyana relates to ideas and emotions, being able to flow freely, to be able to express ourselves, hopefully in loving ways. Inefficient Vyana is associated with a feeling of separateness, alienation, us and them. There's some political systems right now that really demonstrate a lack of Vyana prana flowing. So we're going to work a little bit with breathing here, just like we have with the other Vayus today. So if you can, from mountain pose, simply inhale, let the breath draw from the nose to the heart. Move to the back of the heart where it's really dark and you never get to it. And as you exhale, imagine the breath moving out through the arms and legs, through the entire length of the torso. So you're inhaling through the nose, bringing the breath into the heart area, and even to behind the heart and lungs. And as you exhale, the breath disseminates out through the whole body. Imagine the breath moving out through every pore in your body, even expanding slightly beyond the limits of your skin. And then on the inhale, draw it all back down to the very center of your heart, and especially those dark, unused areas behind your heart. Okay. And then we're going to take a little bit of movement. We're going to keep the same mental focus on the breath. As you inhale, lift the arms up, and exhale, come into a half moon stretch to one side. Inhale, come back up, and exhale, half moon stretch to the other side. Now weave in your mental focus. Inhale, breathe through the nose to the heart. Exhale, squeeze that prana to all the areas of your body. So feel this movement helping you in the mental work of squeezing prana outward, from the center outward. Let's go to each side one more time. And come back to mountain pose. So now we've worked with all the 5 pranas in separate postures. Now we're going to see if we can weave consistent and concurrent awareness in one posture. So please turn to the side of your mat. Take your feet fairly wide. Good. And externally rotate the right leg bone again, and we'll come into triangle pose. So your right leg is rotated forward to the front edge of your mat. A little bending your right knee is fine. Adjust your left leg so you're comfortable, keeping your hips facing the long edge of your mat. And then let's do a version of triangle pose. It's not too demanding. You choose what you like. You can inhale, open your arms, and exhale, tip your body over to the right. No need to reach for a block or overstretch. Just find something that you can hold and concentrate on other things other than pain in your body. So holding triangle pose to the right. Now let's go to Apana Vayu. Feel the energy move down your legs, root your feet, plug into the planet. Udana Vayu can help elongate our spine. So from the pelvis up through the crown of the head, elongate your spine. So have that upward, it's on an angle now, that upward flow of energy. And then in prana, really feel the, prana Vayu, feel the expansion of the lungs. And all of these actions lead to the role of Vyana Vayu, which celebrates the extension of the arms and the joy of the whole pose. And of course, Samana Vayu is at work in the belly, that determination to stay in this full body pose. Looking down at your right foot, inhale, lift yourself back up. Turn your legs parallel, let your arms rest. So Trikonasana is not just a side body stretch or not just a hamstring lengthening. It becomes this distribution vehicle for essential life energy. Let's rotate the left leg away. So the left toes are facing the short edge of the mat. Adjust your right leg into a slight internal rotation if that helps you stay facing square to the long edge of the mat. And a little bend in the left knee is fine. Inhale, opening the arms, and exhale, coming into your Trikonasana this afternoon. Not a terribly demanding one because you need a lot of energy to go through all of this mental stuff. So not too much physical draw. And then again, we'll start with Apana. Plug your feet into the planet. Udana Vayu elongates our spines from the pelvis to the crown of the head. Samana Vayu aids the rotation of the trunk, so the left rib cage turning under and the right rib cage opening to the sky. So that's Samana Vayu at work. Vyana Vayu, extend the arms directly out of the heart. Feel that joy as you express yourself physically. And then prana Vayu, expanding and contracting through the lungs. One more breath. And then please look down at your left foot as you lift yourself back up. Bring your feet parallel. Come back to mountain pose. And make your way into the real Shavasana now. So there may be some movement that you would like to do when you come down onto your back. I might suggest a supine twist. That's a nice way to kind of just reconnect with all parts of your body now that you're supine. But maybe you'd like to do something different. A little bit of a supported shoulder stand can be as interesting here. You can do Apanasana again, the first pose that we did. Sometimes it's a nice way to bookend the practice, especially if all of this focus on prana and all these different directions left you feeling a little ungrounded. Apana is a great way to plug the feet back into the planet again. So if you're doing a supine twist, you might want to twist in the other direction now, just so you can get both sides in. And then we'll, at some point, move into your version of Shavasana today. So as you're adjusting into a still position, just kind of reflecting on the movements today. It's no new postures probably for you, but maybe you found the postures a bit more exciting or mentally engaging today because we were really engaging our life force. We can use this mental focus and our awareness as yogis to build energy. Not only do we build strength in our muscles, but we develop an inner power that provides courage so we can take any actions that we decide are in alignment with our needs and our higher good. We can do what we want with this energy. It allows our lives to flourish more in harmony with nature. So when you come into Shavasana this afternoon, think about nature and think about how nature has times of frantic activity and then has times where it allows the energy to be gathered and stored and prepared for the next burst of activity. So you've had quite a burst of activity for the last hour. Parts of your body have been stretched and opened, and elements of your prana have been squeezed into new, perhaps unusual places or unprepared places even. So please take this time to nurture yourself. Close your eyes if that's comfortable. Let your bones release into gravity. Trust your natural breath to move in a rhythm that will move the prana exactly as it needs to be in this moment. Friend dropped by our house this afternoon to show us his new electric bike. And while he was sitting and resting, he plugged his electric bike in. And that's what you're doing. You've enjoyed moving and breathing and exploring. And now you're plugging in your electrical connection and receiving from all that prana churning. Letting that energy bathe your tissues and work through the storage closets of the mind. We'll just take a couple more minutes here. You're welcome to stay in Shavasana longer. This is your practice. But if you have somewhere else to be this afternoon, slowly start to gather yourself into one place by taking a few deep breaths. And as you start to feel a little bit more coherent, you can wiggle fingers, toes, whatever you need to do, roll over to your side. And please join me in a comfortable seated position. That might mean sitting on your chair or other props. And then let's keep the prana moving in our body by using the sacred sound of Om. So join me if you can. I'm inhaling now. Namaste.